We knew the SEC would try and pull a fast one in all of this college football playoff discussion. They weren't going to go down without doing that. And it's happening right now with this 5+11 model. Greg Sankey has distributed a lot of literature about this, and there is one key thing in particular you really need to pay attention with what has happened here, okay? Let's look at, so Ross Dellinger dove into the data, first of all, in this 5+11 college football playoff proposal that is now basically supported by the SEC in unison. It was proposed by the Big 12. It goes against what the Big 10 wants, which is the 4 auto bids for each of those 2 conferences. Ross Dellinger says since the 2014 playoff, the Big 10 led all conferences with 59 teams ranked inside of the top 16 of the playoff rankings. It's about 5.3 teams per year. The SEC has averaged 5 per year. The Big 12 has averaged 2.4 per year, and the ACC 2.1. And these are all updated for realignment, right? So Oklahoma and Texas count toward the SEC's numbers. Big 12, by the way, better than the ACC there, which is nice. But that's how it would break down. So Dellinger is trying to basically predict 5+11 model, what that would look like if it went that way, and we're operating with almost all at-larges. Or even, Sankey has floated the idea of like, well, why don't we just go to top 16 and give nobody an automatic bid? Which obviously, that's another way you are playing with fire a little bit here if you are Brett Yormark. So SEC 5 teams, Big 10 just over 5 teams, Big 12 2.4, ACC 2.1. Here's some more from Ross Dellinger. Okay, so many of these quotes, man, you can just already see it. The SEC starts to throw its support behind this. Hey, we'll rely more on a committee for this, and they complain and whine, even though, as I pointed out earlier, last year 6 SEC teams would have been in the top 16. And in a down year for the league, and the committee ranked those teams, and they're going to complain still about the rankings here and try and set the table for we need even better treatment from these things. So Sankey says, perhaps most important, a move to a 5+11 format will necessitate a change to the selection committee's criteria, according to SEC admins and coaches. Such a model relies heavily on a committee that many SEC leaders publicly attacked this week. At times, it seemed like a choreographed assault on the committee. This was Scott Strickland, I believe, from Florida. Quote, a committee is not ideal to choose a postseason. I question whether it is appropriate for college football. A committee has been overwhelmingly beneficial to the SEC over the lifetime of having a committee here. Literally last year was the one year where you can't even say it was detrimental to the SEC. It just was not over the top preferential to the SEC. So it's just such a hilarious notion and a hilarious, hilarious quote there. Joe Castiglione at Oklahoma says the selection committee's role is not to send messages, but the outcome of their decisions do. Yeah, Joe, what was the message that the committee sent in 2023 in leaving out unbeaten ACC champ Florida State in lieu of one-loss Alabama? What was that message? That was a pretty damn big message. That was a bigger message than last year leaving Ole Miss, who lost to 4-win Kentucky, out of the playoff. That was a much bigger message that was sent there. Again, these are hilarious, but you see where this is going. Another quote from an SEC admin. We got away from the old model with the computer, and now we've got it totally subjective. Can we find a way to bring it more to the middle with info on strength of schedule, quality of opponents, things of that nature? I believe that was Brian Kelly. We got away from the computer. Everybody hated the BCS and complained about the BCS incessantly, and now we're saying, well, you know what? Bring back those computers. South Carolina coach Shane Beamer, does strength of schedule matter or not? Like, the reason that you had 3-loss SEC teams even being considered last year is because of strength of schedule. That would not have happened in any other conference, but it happened in the SEC because there is a benefit given to strength of schedule there. It just can't be, hey, you play in the best league strength of schedule wise, so no matter what you do, you're getting in over somebody else. That's not a trump card. It's just something that is considered here. Anyway, this is where the SEC is all going, right? Can you see how something diabolical might happen here? They feel very strongly about this. What do we see in America these days? When somebody feels very strongly about something, they will bend facts. as much as they possibly can, no matter what the hell side you're on. People will bend facts, no matter whether we're talking about sports, politics, whatever. They'll bend facts, they'll bend reality to make it happen here. So the way this is all setting up, you're thinking, well, John, what is the SEC trying to do? What are they going to try and do with this? Here's what they're going to try and do with it. Part of some of the numbers that were being circulated by Greg Sankey, we pulled the Massey ratings the other day where he was trying to say, look how strong our league is. The average team in our league, we only have 2 teams below. I forget what that was, out of the top 40 or 50. All these other leagues have like 6 or 7. But included in some of those numbers was ESPN's FPI. Now, this is where really, if you want to get really conspiratorial, if you want to put on your Alex Jones tinfoil hat, this is where you do it. ESPN's FPI being mentioned by Sankey here because, many people, I can understand why, I feel like ESPN has really been in the back pocket of the SEC for a long time here. I do think that they have played a significant role in the rise of the SEC. Not that it hasn't all been unwarranted by the SEC, their rise. I'm not saying that. But they did dramatically help shift that tone over the years by being such an advocate for the conference and being such a good, loyal partner. Now, Sankey's going to say, yeah, hey, our buds over there, ESPN, yeah, your power rankings, we're going to use those because those look pretty good for all of us. Let me just tell you, ESPN FPI is like the king of, hey, we overvalue recruiting rankings, which many people feel like get overly inflated toward the SEC because when an SEC program offers somebody, automatically they're just going to shoot up. And so you can see how this becomes sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. SEC recruiting numbers get juiced because people assume that they are the best teams there. ESPN overvalues recruiting rankings in its computer rankings. And now Sankey is saying, well, yeah, let's use those. Let's use those and have that be a major factor here. That's how this becomes a problem. And if you want a little bit of proof of this, let's have a gander here. Let's have a gander here at what ESPN's FPI has right now for its preseason top 25. Okay, let's count. The first Big 12 team that you have here is 21, K-State. Arizona State's also in there at 24. You have 2 Big 12 teams ranked. Let's count how many SEC teams we get before we get to a Big 12 team. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the top 10, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 5 in a row. 11. You got 11 SEC teams before you get to 1 Big 12 team. Among that group, Florida and Oklahoma. Auburn, I mean, really, look, Florida, I can understand how you make the case with Lagway, like that they'll be pretty good. Auburn and Oklahoma at 14 and 16 here. Come on, man. Do you guys remember what happened? Let's go directly. Sorry about that. Let's go directly Big 12 comp. What happened when Houston played Oklahoma last year? Houston lost by 4 in Norman. Houston finished 11th in the Big 12, right? We can start doing some of this funny hypothetical math if the SEC is going to. This is an asinine top 25 that we have from ESPN's FPI. So the point that I'm making in all of this, is actually something that kind of flies in the face of my defense, or at least showing you why, hey, Brett Yormark would argue for 5 plus 11, because this shows you some of the danger in that. Like, would Sankey be able to push his way toward a world where we're actually using ESPN FPI as like a legitimate thing to determine who is getting these at-large spots? I mean, to me, that's just as bad as saying that we're going to use TV numbers, which were floated out there as a crappy trial balloon idea from the SEC and Big Ten, probably strategically at one point, that we'd use TV ratings to decide what conferences would get what auto bids. Just as bad an idea to be using FPI. I mean, that's how little I respect FPI here, man. I mean, come on. And we run into this, man. We run into this so often with people just assuming, well, FPI's got to be right. Those teams are talented. Auburn and Oklahoma are more talented. It's got to be. Trust FPI on that. I'm searching for the tweet right now because I didn't have this totally ready to go. But this account, College Football Nerds, which I respect fine enough, have followed it for a while, but they had, I thought, just a really bad tweet. I may have scrolled past it. About this FPI reaction here that everybody was having. Yeah, here we go. Okay. Let me pull this up for you here. Like this perfectly, I think, illustrates the point and the problem that we face with using things like FPI. So people are complaining about the FPI rankings. College Football Nerd says the worst team in the SEC last year, Mississippi State, went 0-8 in conference. They went on the road and lost to the Big 12 champion by one score, 30-23. Arkansas, by contrast, beat Mississippi State 58-25. Okay. Well, you can just as easily, like this you see this and you think, oh, well, yeah, I mean, of course, right? SEC plays higher quality football. I'm not even going to mention the fact that it was 30-3 Arizona State in September, by the way, before that team clearly gelled and became a different beast by the end of the year. But they were up 30-3 in the third quarter before some garbage time points from Mississippi State there. Okay, but look how easy this is to just do the same thing on the other side. The last place team in the Big 12 who won 0 Big 12 games beat that same Arkansas team that was referenced there. Oklahoma State did not win a single Big 12 game. They went 3-9. They beat Arkansas. The 11th place team in the Big 12, Houston, lost by 4 at Oklahoma. Alabama lost by 21 at Oklahoma. You want to say, hey, that doesn't matter. Put up or shut up in the playoff. Well, the Big 12 champ was a 4th and 13 stop away from beating the SEC runner-up who lost the SEC title game in overtime by 3. They were a 4th and 13 stop away from beating them in the playoff. Like we fall into this world, and this is a lot of the risk of 5+11 is that we fall even further and too far into that world where those type of things can start to grab hold. Now, luckily, I would say it seems like the tide has been turning a little bit on that, and we're seeing less and less of that, and more people are kind of waking up to this. Apparently, College Football Nerds, not one of those. Again, I think a pretty respectable account, but that was a disappointing one for me that was pretty easily dispelled. So that's the part of this you gotta really watch out, man. And this is where the delusion. This was one of the most alarming quotes from Ross Dellinger's latest piece. If we're talking about like where the delusion is with the SEC crowd right now. I'm reading from Ross Dellinger. Some SEC administrators here have wondered aloud this week if an SEC Big Ten only playoff is the right path. Quote, there would be no argument that the winner is the national champion, right? Asked one high-level SEC school official. I mean, look, literally this year, you've got a lot of people out there predicting Clemson, by the way, as the preseason number 1, or at least a preseason top 5 team. If we're going to just throw like a fact out there about how this year is shaping up, but just the unbelievable hubris there and the unbelievable short-sightedness of that comment, thinking, well, yeah, it's the way to go. Everyone thinks our 2 conferences are the best. Like, yeah, that's the way to go. Let's do it. Again, think about 10 years from now, man, when the shine and the luster of your USC Michigan conference games wear off a little bit and it's become professional football that's not the NFL and it's lost the soul of the sport and you've lost swaths of the country. That's not the right path, my friends. That's not the right path.